Welcome to a new weekly wrap-up. I'm S and I'm joined with Jay.
Hi!
And we'll be walking you through the art we made this week. To start things off for day 29, the prompt for this day was Maple Taffy.
Yum!
And so for this day, it was a honestly very straightforward piece. It was very simple composition just because I wanted to obviously highlight the Maple Taffy. And Maple Taffy, if you watched our short, as I said, it's kind of only made in very few ways. It's kind of like boiled maple syrup, like that's kind of put into lines in a layer of snow. So it's like, okay, there's only so many ways I can show this, but I also didn't want to, like, you know, block the actual maple taffy and stuff in the shot. So, you know, like I said, the composition is quite simple, but it works.
Honestly, I think it was really effective because you basically showed the entire process. I mean, without, like, boiling maple syrup on the side, I guess, but, like, essentially, you know, pouring the maple syrup onto the snow so that it quickly cools down, like, you know, roll it up on a stick and eat it is basically the whole experience. But yeah,
no, that was on purpose, right? Because I did want to, honestly, I actually want to draw all 5 of our main characters. I want to add Ash and Liam, but it was kind
Ray
of
and Liam.
Ray and Liam, but it kind of got to a point where either they would just be hanging around and just eating, or like kind of just blocking the shot, like, you know what I'm saying? So I opted to just not include them, though they're there with them in spirit. And obviously this was a very self-indulgent prompt. Like, they're like, whenever you're probably doing like a 365-day challenge, you probably won't see prompts like this very often.
Oh no, definitely not. I think especially because this prompt is so regional specific, right? Like, obviously maple trees and maple syrup production is only in, you know, certain areas of like North America. Right? At least, you know, in the context that we're talking about. And so, you know, maple taffy itself is also an incredibly regional experience. So, I mean, I think it's an opportunity to kind of show people what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to choose this one because our prompts, obviously we like to talk about the things that, you know, we like, or you know, things that we find cool or interesting, or things we like to eat or whatever. And, you know, the maple taffy definitely falls into that category,
right?
But I also thought that this was a good time to, because sometimes we do a little bit of minor education in it too, just to like, you know, show people the different things, right? Or like, so whether it's like this maple taffy prompt or like our, you know, our hot pot prompt or anything like that, I really, you know, I like these prompts a lot. Like I said, they're very straightforward. Like, they're just eating half the time, but I think there's something about food that can really not just connect people, but
it also like bridges cultural divides.
Well, yes, but also it's an easy thing for people to want to learn more about, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, I thought that your piece was really good, and initially I was a little bit skeptical.
Yeah, you were like,
prompt.
I don't know about this prompt, and I'm like, okay, well, because we usually make a prompt list together, right? And I don't remember if it was slated to be your prompt or not, but I know you were not into it, and I was like, you know what, if you don't want to do it, I'll do it, right?
It's not that I wasn't really like into it. I wasn't sure, because I was like, okay, well, like, would this be relatable to anyone, or would people find it interesting, right? Because it's something that is, you know, foreign to them, like, probably, right? But like, for myself, like, you know, I have very good memories of, you know, maple taffy. Like, we did it once, and yeah, it was really fun. I feel like it's one of those really like quintessential Canadian experiences in the winter time that like, I mean, of course it's only available in like basically one specific region, but you know, it's still, right? But I mean, I definitely think that if you ever have a chance to, you really should try, like, if you're in Canada in the wintertime and you happen to be in, you know, Quebec or maybe Ontario at, you know, a sugar shack, which is a place that takes the sap from the maple trees and turns it into maple syrup, and it's absolutely wonderful. Then you should try it.
Yeah, because I mean, I think where we tried it, I think it was a festival of some sort. I think we might have had it twice. Once at a sugar shack, and another time at a sort of like ice sculpture festival. I think in like Ottawa or like Montreal. I don't really remember. So like it's not like only at those sugar shacks.
Yeah.
So, but obviously it's a winter activity, and for if you're like, oh, I can't make it all the way to Canada, like I said in some of the comments on the short that I made that day, there are people that have actually, I think, successfully made maple taffy with like just like their own ice cubes, like with like shaved ice machines or knives. So like if you're interested in trying it yourself, as long as you're careful because you know you're boiling sugar, I think it's actually something you could probably make at home to some level of success, right? Obviously the whole eating it outside and whatever is not quite the same, but you know, it's sometimes if you just want to taste it, you know, you do what you can, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think if you're in the States, it's possible that areas like Vermont or wherever where they also produce maple syrup might have it as well.
Have it too.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, I really enjoy your piece. I mean, the one thing that I was going to suggest that like maybe because I kind of associate maple taffy with like sugar shacks and like maple tree forests and stuff. Like I feel like you probably could have put some trees in the background.
Yeah.
And I feel like because maple syrup is one of those things where like, you know, it comes from the trees and stuff, and I feel like
it's a missed opportunity not to show the trees.
Yeah.
Which I kind of agree. I did think about that kind of after I finished the piece, but I felt like whatever. I just finished it, so I kind of left it. But like, you know, in a little bit of hindsight, I was like, yeah, probably would have been better to add them in.
But honestly, I think you highlighting, you know, the maple taffy experience itself is honestly really fun and really unique, and I really like it. Alright, so for day 30, it was National Croissant Day, and it was another food prompt, surprisingly. Usually we don't do them back-to-back, but for this one we did. And, for this piece, I wanted to show my own love for croissants, so I drew Ray happily chomping down on a croissant with his eyes closed to savor the flavor. And yeah, I mean, for this one in particular, I chose to draw Ray's eyes closed because I feel like for the other food prompts that we've drawn previously, we don't quite capture the sort of, this is so good flavor or kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You know, like whether it's like hot pot or like even like chocolate cake, like or even the spaghetti one, right? Where Layla was in the middle of eating spaghetti. We don't have that whole like, man, this is so good.
I think like the only one I can really think of was the hot pot one with the stars in Layla's eyes, but yeah, I kind of agree. And even though this one was a food prompt and the last one, the maple taffy, was technically also a food prompt, I think that it's different enough because this one is like, you know, mostly just eating the food, and the last one was just like making the food. I think it's distinct enough that it works. But I do really like the happiness that Ray exudes. And you know, we are both big fans of croissants. I love croissants in any way, whether it's a plain croissant, chocolate croissant, almond croissant. I just love them all. Also, like, you know, croissants as sandwiches, or like croissants like for like savory stuff inside, you know. They're so good. It's such a good vehicle for like everything.
You know those like panini pressed croissants that are like with ice cream? Those are so good. Those are so good. And I feel like people have really, like, I think base croissants are already so good, but the way that people have sort of innovated croissants and how they're served and how they're eaten is just like, man, there's nothing wrong you can do with the croissant.
Yeah. Well, anyways, going back to your piece, for like the actual like drawing, I do like the subtle details you have on the croissant itself. You can kind of see the layers and the blending and like the colors that you did to make it look like it's you know, freshly baked instead of just like one block of brown. You know, you can see the different brown tints, which I actually didn't really notice the first time around, but looking at it again now, I'm like, oh, that's a neat touch.
Yeah.
Though I kind of wonder if there is another way that we could have done the composition just to kind of highlight the croissant a little bit more, only because like, I mean, obviously Ray is eating the croissant and I can't really think of a new way, like a different way for him to eat the croissant.
Yeah.
But just to like present the croissant, just because
That's
like
fair.
his hand is kind of blocking a good portion of it. And so like I wonder if we changed it instead of like Ray eating the croissant to like Ray taking croissants out of the oven, or like Ray stacking croissants in a bakery counter or something. Like obviously it's not going to be the same thing because, you know, he's not eating it, but it's like, it's a bit of a shame because like the like most detail like that you have on the piece like is on the croissant and it's kind of partially blocked by his hand.
Yeah, actually, like as I was drawing it, I was also kind of wondering like, oh, like, you know, would it cover too much of it? But then like, you know, what other ways are there to eat croissants besides using your hands?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you're not gonna be like pulling out like the knife and fork and
or, like, you know, holding them with like chopsticks or something, so that you can
it's
show
not that kind of food.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just like, yeah, I do agree with the whole bakery thing. Like maybe we could have had like Ray, you know, like take a croissant from the foreground, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe like even like a pile of croissants in front of him, like, like
maybe
while he's eating it right now,
maybe.
like to his like, I don't know, to his right or whatever, or to his left. Yeah,
I don't know. I think because like for me, like I'm just like, we don't go to like fancy bakeries and stuff often, so like I it just didn't like come to mind that like, oh yeah, there are places that sell croissants that are like maybe stacked up on top of each other, or like
croissant towers.
Well, not quite croissant. I mean, like in a display maybe with like a bunch of other pastries. And now that I think about it, like yeah, that probably could have been a good one. But for me, like I just kept it simple this time and decided to just, you know what, my associations with croissants are that they're really tasty, and so I just kind of wanted to show that. The one thing that I also considered, like besides like kind of plain croissants, was drawing pain au chocolat, right? Or like a chocolate croissant. But then I also kind of remembered your like chocolate cake prompt or day, where you're like, oh, like, you know, the brown kind of looks like
sauce on their face.
Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, maybe just a plain croissant is okay. And also I feel like plain croissants are the most like recognizable like shape.
Yeah, and I think like unless if you have like a chocolate croissant, like maybe like chocolate like on top of it, I just feel like a pain au chocolat sometimes I feel like some people could argue that it's not a croissant, and kind of like not to say a Danish or but like just kind of a puff pastry like dessert, rather than a croissant. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, even though it uses the croissant dough and it's like very obviously like sort of like the sort of, you know,
like a cousin of it,
sister companion treat, it's not quite the same thing. But also like I was worried that if I put like chocolate like on top or like powdered sugar or like whatever, right, it would cover the layers of the croissants, which is, you know, kind of important when making croissants, and that's what makes them so good.
On to day 31, which is actually the last day of our first full month of this challenge.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, of course, January 31st. That makes sense.
But anyways, this prompt for this day was ice fishing, and I was really excited by this one. And I think it was honestly one of those prompts again, like I said for the Maple Taffy one, where Jay kind of like, I had the vibe where I'm like, I don't think you want to do this one. So you know what, I'm going to do it because, you know, like I said, I was really excited for this one.
Yeah.
And I had kind of an image in my mind immediately of what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be, you know, a dynamic piece, right? Whether it's like the fish flying in the air, or you know, Layla in this piece kind of being flung backwards by the excitement of the fishing. Even though, you know, they're sitting down, I just wanted to make it, you know, kind of like full of power.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could definitely tell that you were feeling very inspired by this piece. I really like it because I feel like you know, the movement of the piece is really like you said, powerful, and you know, it's really unique. And I mean, like you said, like I wasn't quite sure about how I would approach, you know, this prompt, so I'm glad you know, you had a vision, right?
Yeah, because I think for me, lately on like YouTube, I've been kind of watching those people that live in those like extreme cold weather conditions, and so for me, watching them, you know, live in like the wilderness or kind of like surviving in the like deep cold,
right,
I was like kind of inspired. That's why I kind of made this prompt, because obviously like I said, I was interested in this prompt, and when we make our prompt list, Jay is definitely not the one that wrote down this prompt.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was inspired by the videos I was watching, so I was like, you know what, I kind of wanna do it. And so I looked at, you know, a couple of reference photos, and yeah, I think drawing like prompts that you are excited about always makes a difference, because I feel like, you know, for me, if I took this prompt, like maybe I would not have gone like as like, you know, as hard with it as you did, which yeah, I think makes the piece really, really good. And I feel like you really captured the sort of excitement of fishing, right? And how, like, you know, the anticipation, and then when you finally get the catch.
Yeah, when you finally get the catch, the like the rush of adrenaline when you're like maybe like fighting the fish, or like, you know, like trying to
reel it in.
Yeah, reel it in, and you're like battling with a big fish, and like, you know, you catch it and you're like, yes.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like the rod that I drew is honestly basically just a stick, but like I still wanted to. I think I tried more than anything to capture that wonder and capture that
feeling,
excitement, that vibe, more than anything else. And for me, the use of things like, you know, a fish brush that you could probably see in the speed paint, to draw the fish, because honestly, I did not think that my fish drawing skills were going to be better than this fish brush. And honestly, it was a little bit difficult, because the fish brush that I used was actually for a school of fish. So you'll probably see in the speed paint, if you haven't seen it already, that I was kind of struggling just to get like one fish on the thing. And so, but anyways, that fish brush and, you know, the motion blur feature really helped to make it a bit more dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I really, really like is, yes, your fish brush was very cute, but I actually really like that you chose to plop Layla on a bucket, because like initially I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like, you know, I thought in my mind maybe you would choose like maybe like a camping chair or something.
Yeah. So actually, while I was looking at references, a lot of the times, you know, these people are sitting on like a camping chair.
Right.
And I thought about drawing her on one, but then as I was, you know, scrolling through, I came across this one picture of a dude sitting on like a hardware store bucket, and I'm like, I'm going to draw that too. And so that's kind of what I did.
It feels very outdoorsy.
Yeah, where you're just kind of resourceful and use whatever you have.
Yeah. I do really like the whole, like you said, resourcefulness of, you know, using a bucket, because I mean, it's like you're prepared, but then also like you're not.
yeah, because like I really like the small details that I was able to put into this one, whether it's the bucket, right?
Yeah.
Or like the hand crank that they use to like make the holes
like
into the water. Yeah. And also, it's not as obvious, but the bucket that I have that have the fish are like ramrod straight, because, you know, as I mentioned in the short, in these like really cold places, these fish freeze up in seconds, like or within like a minute, I think. And so they're just like these rock hard straight fish. They don't flop over, and so that's why they're all just pointed straight up and down inside the bucket, even though you can't see much of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's just these little details I actually had a lot of fun with.
Yeah. And on to day 32, we started February with laundry. And so for this piece, I definitely wanted to sort of show a sort of shared laundry facility, or like an apartment, or basically a shared living space where people kind of share a laundry room or laundry area
to,
you know, do their laundry and stuff. And, you know, when people have to do laundry in the same area, a lot of times people are fighting for the machines all the time.
Oh yeah.
And no matter what time of day you go there, like, people are always doing laundry.
Yeah,
like 24/7.
really
like, especially like the bigger the building and the more people you kind of live with, the
harder the fight.
Yeah, and like at all times of day, like even in the AMs, like when people should be asleep, nope, there's some crazy person doing laundry still.
Yeah, I really like this piece because, there's a bunch of different things that I think that you've done to elevate this piece. And obviously, the first thing is the laundry is endless. I really like the sign. But also, I love the little details that you have in this piece, like the different laundry containers that everybody has, like between Ray and Ash, right? Or even Layla that just doesn't have one.
Yeah.
And even though it's not like super practical, like this setup that you have right here where just have like stairs just open to like a laundry area.
Yeah.
I do really like the way that you've done the composition for this piece to show, as you said, like this line of people, just cause like you can tell immediately that A, there's a bunch of people doing laundry.
Yeah.
B, that there's a line, but C, also like just I like the way that that you composed it, like the elevation of the different characters and utilizing the space really well, and also that they're kind of in some sort of like, as you said, shared living space. You can tell almost immediately.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like even though it's not practical in real life, like this, you wouldn't really see something like this normally.
I mean, you might. Like some people, like their like laundry facilities are kind of small, but yeah.
But my point is that like, you made it work for the piece.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, like you were saying, like I definitely wanted to show like a line of people, like, oh no, the machines are being used, and like, oh man, I'm gonna wait, and like this and that.
The one thing that I kind of thought that, not to say was missing, but that to really make it feel like real life, was that you don't have like the laundry basket like on top of the the dryers or the washing machines, or like clothes like dumped on top of it.
Yeah. People clearing out like other people's laundry and like throwing them on top of the machines,
or like on the floor even, or in their own basket.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I could have done that for sure. I mean, that's definitely the shared laundry experience. But as for the sign, I mean, I thought that the area was a little bit empty, so I wanted to put something a little bit funny there, and also because like we said, like no matter what time of day, people are always doing laundry every single day, and so the laundry really is endless. I feel like those like laundry rooms, like how should I put it, they're on like 24/7. Like there's no end time or whatever. I mean, unless like you have specific like laundry hours, possibly.
Not usually, from my experience.
Yeah,
a lot of times, even like coin laundries outside, it's like 24/7 because you just don't know who's going to use them, right?
Yeah. But anyways, another detail that I wanted to mention was actually for Layla, her comforter, I actually referenced from day 9 from Cozy, the one that you drew. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I can see it.
So, I mean, like, even though... Well, I mean, to the best of my ability, but, like, I mean, even though...
Kind of missing that pleat pattern,
even though we don't have a specific, like, I guess, sort of canon, kind of comforter color or whatever
room for her right now.
I just wanted to keep it consistent because, like, I mean, for people who have seen Cozy all the way back in day 9, right, like they might recognize her blankets.
One last thing about the composition that I really wanted to highlight, that I really liked personally, I don't even know if it was particularly like intentional, but I really liked the way that your eyes move on this piece, right? So like if you start at Ray, right, the way that his head is turned towards Ash, and then when you look up at Ash, his head is turned towards Layla, and then when you look up towards Layla, she's looking back down onto the sign which brings you back down to Ray, and kind of in this like full circle like viewing experience, which I actually really like that we don't always usually have in our pieces.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely wanted to make them feel like they were kind of living in this space, right? And like not just because sometimes we like the backgrounds that we have are sort of just kind of there, like let's say for
they're just backgrounds for background's sake.
Well, yeah, like let's say for like tobogganing or whatever, they're all like outside and like, you know, in the mountainous snowy areas and whatever. But this is like inside a home, right? Or like
this one they're using the background as something that they're interacting with, which is something that we usually don't do or haven't done. I think this is the first time actually that we have a piece like this where they're in the background and the foreground, you know,
but also still in some subtle ways interacting with each other. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like laundry can be a chore, but for this one, I wanted it to be a little bit of fun.
And on to day 33, it was actually February 2nd. So on every February 2nd, it is Groundhog Day, which was this day's prompt. And so just to kind of peel back behind the curtain of what we do, usually for these daily prompts, we kind of actually finish them a day or two ahead.
Yeah.
And so this one, since it was such a day-specific prompt, and if you don't know what Groundhog Day is, it's basically a day where a groundhog comes out of their burrow and checks to see if they see their shadow or not, to predict if we'll get 6 more weeks of winter or not. So if they see their shadow, then yes, more winter. If they don't see their shadow, then we'll get an early spring. So that's basically the deal with that day. And so basically, since we work, you know, a day or two ahead of the day we actually post, because, you know, we have to make the picture and then we have to make our short to edit it. We just need that kind of
extra time
to do it. So then for this one, since it was actually going to come out that day, I kind of needed to prepare. I prepared 2 versions actually of this piece. One, you know, with the shadow and one without the shadow, and also 2 scripts for the YouTube short, you know, one with the shadow and one without the shadow. Just because, like, I didn't know the results. Like, you know, I was drawing it on something like January 31st or whatever, right? And like, I, you know, didn't know what the results of Groundhog Day would be. And then so I'd be like, okay, I need to check, you know, when I wake up and can get to making the short, like, on that day, like, you know, what are the results, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Groundhog Day is really one of those sort of events where, like, you celebrate it yearly, but you don't really know how to celebrate it. Like, it's just a day that happens. Like, like, you know, in February, you're just like, oh yeah, Groundhog Day, nice, right? And you know, I mean, but anyways, I really like your groundhog. I think it's super cute. And
it was kind of hard to draw. I was like, I don't really know if I'm capturing this groundhog very well, because it's like I'm looking at pictures of groundhogs on the internet and I'm like, oh,
but okay. I kind of realized that I don't really know how groundhogs looked. Like, for some reason, I thought they might look a little bit, you know, maybe like mini beaver-like, or like, you know, like capybaras or whatever, or something like, I don't know. I thought they would look kind of like
in that same like rodent-like family.
Yeah,
so like, it's still my groundhog still kind of has that look to it, but I don't even think like I said, I drew it that well. But
but I mean, anyways, so like when I did look up groundhogs, I was like, oh, like, I don't know, it's a little bit more rodent-like than I was expecting, but like otherwise it was like still in the same family, so it was like, it still looks like what I was expecting.
To be honest, the groundhog, I think that I drew the head too big, but that's whatever.
I don't know. I can't remember, but honestly, I think it's cute. But yeah, I mean, I feel like for Groundhog Day, it's one of those things where it's like, for me, like, I've never properly observed Groundhog Day as a holiday or like event. So I just kind of wonder, like, now that I think about it more, like, how do they check? Like, you know, obviously they have like certain groundhogs that they check on every year. So then, like, do they like like, do they use a camera? Do they like hover around
to
their
like scope out their burrow or
yeah,
something?
like hover around their burrows to like,
It's like
wait for the groundhog to like come
magically
out from
come
the
out.
ground.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know how Groundhog Day works.
So from what I understand, like obviously the big Groundhog Day celebrations, like it's on like they have their whole like it's a whole setup. Like it's on a stage, it's on whatever.
Oh,
and you know
wow.
these people like okay, I watched last year's one. Like obviously in preparation for making this year's one.
Yeah.
So I watched last year's one and they were on stage and they had some sort of like box or whatever and they would check it. They checked the groundhog, his name is Phil, in Pennsylvania. And then they like just grabbed him and kind of Simba'd him around after you know, Simba on the
Simba'd,
like you know, on like Pride Rock or whatever.
Yeah, no, I know.
They Simba'd him like after they checked that he still saw his shadow or not, and then like they
wow. Wait. So do they like put Phil in like a box? Like
I don't see,
and then like
how
does it work?
The video that I saw, honestly, the angle was pretty bad. So maybe I should have gone maybe 2 years back, and maybe it would have had a clearer picture.
Maybe.
But they basically went and saw it, and then just announced it. So I don't really know what the process is.
The groundhog.
Maybe not like complete Simba, like into the, but like basically held Phil up and like just kind of showed him around. And so, anyways,
I wonder if the groundhog ever goes like, man, it's that time of year again. Like, I need to look at my shadow and just like throw these humans off. Like, more winter for you, or like, I don't know.
Well, anyways, so because like the most famous, I guess, Groundhog Day, you know, is in like festivity is in Pennsylvania on a stage. I was kind of thinking like, okay, like how should I do this shot for this piece, right? And I kind of like, you know what, I think I'm gonna lean more towards the quote-unquote spirit of Groundhog Day, or like the idea of Groundhog Day, where it's like, the groundhog, you know, comes out of its burrow to check the thing. And so that's why I drew like a forest and not like groundhog on a stage, you know?
It's a lot less sensationalized.
Just because like it was just a little bit easier for me, also just to show the groundhog with their shadow.
I just feel like, I guess for me, it never really occurred to me that they would kind of celebrate Groundhog Day in this way. And I think for me, like, I guess Groundhog Day has always been just one of those things you just I don't know, like, you hear about, like, oh, like the groundhog's, you know, saw its shadow today, woo, like, you don't really do anything with that information. I didn't even consider that they parade a groundhog on a stage kind of thing. It's just like, okay, I guess.
You didn't really think about the logistics of it.
Yeah, exactly. But also, like, what I found out, like, you know, afterwards was that, like, they have multiple groundhogs in North America.
And I mean, the only one I referenced, that Phil in Philadelphia, is probably the most famous one. But like they have a few of them in the States or even in Canada, right?
Right. And like for me, like I saw that some of the results were a little bit different from each other. So it's just like,
which one's the real? Like,
you know, maybe this is groundhog, you know, shadow forecast isn't quite as accurate as
I actually saw like Phil's accuracy is something like 33% or something, so honestly on the lower end.
That's so funny.
but you know, I still think regardless that I think it's just a fun tradition, and like sometimes people just need something silly to celebrate, regardless of what it is.
It's so fun. I mean, I think that, you know, his accuracy, or like the fact that people calculate the accuracy of these groundhogs on Groundhog Day is it's so funny to me. But it's like you said, it's one of those, you know, fun sort of traditional sort of yearly things that we do that are, you know, kind of silly but honestly pretty fun.
I mean, and one last thing about just drawing the piece, you know, it was a little bit of a lesson in preparation, but honestly, I had fun doing this one.
And to round out my final contribution for this week, on day 34, we had museum. So for this one, I really wanted to show, I guess, the different artifacts and my own love for museums. And I feel like as I've gotten older, my appreciation for museums has really gone up a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of like the different types of exhibits that they have, whether it's art or like, you know, dinosaurs or whatever. But for this one, I opted to show like more cultural artifacts. And so for this one, I decided to, you know, draw Liam kind of walking through exhibits and kind of having a vase like catch his eye. And I feel like for me, like when I go through museums like these days, like not in the past, like I'm actually more open to like kind of looking at everything and reading everything, because
right.
like I guess in the past, like maybe I didn't have the attention span for it, or like I wasn't as interested, but like these days I'm like, oh,
you could just like kind of like skim past them when you walk by.
Yeah, but these days like I just feel like I take more interest in like the art and like
the history,
and the
or
history,
like the if it's like an art piece, right? Like the thought behind it.
Right, yeah. And so for this one, I kind of wanted to show like, you know, Liam, like as he's walking maybe to a specific exhibit, just something that catches his eyes. Because I feel like museums always have that kind of, they have like all of these like centerpieces. So like, let's say like the Mona Lisa or something.
Yeah.
But there's other things in the museum that also look really amazing. And, you know, sometimes it's just those kind of unexpected things that, you know, you're not necessarily, like that wasn't your main goal to look at that thing. But it just really caught your eye and you're like, oh,
I really like
pretty
that.
neat.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really like your kind of forced perspective on this piece, because like kind of like you said, how like you drew Liam with the intention of like, oh, like noticing something as he walks by. And that's what I really like about this piece, that like you can see like what he's seeing, right? And it's a good use of the foreground, middle ground, and background. And kind of like I said, in like week 3 with your bicycle prompt, where I said that I really liked that Liam was looking out onto like the horizon and like the background behind him, right? Whereas this one, I like where Liam is looking at something in the foreground, and like you can really kind of I guess see that Liam's not just like living in his own world and, you know, things catch his eye or whatever that you've drawn in both of them, but like a good use of the space in both prompts.
Yeah, actually for this one, kind of like your other like, you know, ice fishing or whatever, like I really had like an idea of what I wanted to draw for this one. So this one actually came surprisingly easy to me. And sort of like how I envisioned it, like, in terms of, you know, how I want to set up the piece. But also I was considering putting like people in the background, because like I was thinking like,
that makes sense. Like, it's like a gallery or
a museum,
like
is it like a bit empty? But then I was like, you know what, I really want to highlight the art and the
actual pieces itself
in the museum. And so, you know, I spent some time drawing some of the pieces in the background that, you know, subtly like reference the lore in Zenith to Infinity, although we haven't really quite gotten to it yet, which I hope we can explore eventually. But, you know, I felt that if I drew like crowds of people in the background,
it couldn't distract.
It would kind of distract from it, and also like it would just cover the artwork, you know? You know, I feel like museums, because like they're places of such great importance, because they show and display and preserve, you know, humanity, and are able to, you know, share it with other people. I feel like, you know, that's kind of what I wanted to do.
I really liked just the variety of, I guess you could say, artifacts or exhibits that you have on show in your piece, because I think with our kind of vertical layout, or, you know, our square layout too, but our vertical layout sometimes makes it a little bit difficult to show a lot of things around it. And I think, like, say for this museum prompt, you could argue like, oh, it would be better if it was, you know, horizontal because, you know, you could see more artifacts. But I think using like the space that you have, right, this vertical layout, I think that you were able to fit like, you know, 3 pieces, but it didn't feel like it was too little, and it didn't feel like it was like crammed too much. I think it's just right.
Yeah. I think also because like even though I drew the art in the background and the foreground, I still wanted Liam to be the main focus of it, and like his own, like you said, like I guess perspective,
His own experience.
Yeah, exactly, and himself discovering and interacting with, you know, the piece that he sees in front of him.
And on to the final day for this week, day 35, the prompt was dancing. And honestly, I have to say I'm not super satisfied with what I drew this week or on this day, and I'll kind of tell you why. And so when I got this prompt initially, I had a pretty strong idea of what I wanted to draw, and so I was thinking of kind of a like top-down kind of bird's eye view shot of, you know, somebody dancing in the middle, and you know how like when you dance, like your dress kind of fans out into a circle. I was thinking of that with the person who I was drawing, Ruby or whoever, in the center, maybe looking up at you or the viewer, or not, you'll see the top of their head,
right?
And that was my kind of prevailing inspiration or idea for this one. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I think I kind of talked myself out of that idea, and then moved it to kind of more front-facing, where you could see Ruby's fully, well, mostly, like, and then just the dress kind of moving around her, and you can kind of still see some of the remnants of that initial idea with that whole circle skirt idea, with the skirt of this dress or whatever, just like fanning out,
right,
and into the background too.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I looked at this, I actually really liked Ruby's pose and the dress. Like, it was very elegant, and the dress was very flowy. Like, I fully understood that, yes, this is dancing, and yeah, I really liked it. I mean, despite you being a little bit, you know, unsatisfied with the piece, and that you had initial, I guess, ideas for it that didn't quite pan out the way that you wanted it to, I really liked it. But yeah, I mean, I was just going to say though, I was kind of wondering, like, you know, what your inspirations were for the background, because I mean, for me, when I thought you were going to do dancing, I was wondering if, like, I was thinking that, like maybe she would look good on a stage or something, like, and yeah, I mean, of course, like, you can dance anywhere, but yeah, that's what I was thinking of initially, and I was like, oh, like, I'm curious to know what your inspirations for the background were.
So I guess it's a couple of things, right? And so for this piece in general, because I kind of not to say changed my idea, but I had to transition ideas or the way that I composed it. The background suffered a little bit from that transition, because as you kind of say now, like, I think a stage would have been so much nicer for this piece. And when I was doing the background, all I could kind of think of was like because I've drawn Ruby a few times, but the one that came to mind when I was doing this one was the National Hat Day one. That one, I drew Ruby pretty dark, like the background. Well, not just the background and her. And so for this one, I was like, I want her to kind of stand out. And so in the end, right, I ended up doing a pretty light background because actually you'll see in this speed paint that I actually had like a red background initially behind her, but I didn't like the clashing colors and it just kind of was too distracting, so I took it away. And in the end, I had this like plain white background that even though like I'm not super satisfied with, but it's because of the whole hat day, the dark background that it influenced me doing this one. But then I kind of realize now in hindsight that I probably should have been thinking more of like this prompt in mind.
Like dancing.
Yeah, dancing and having, you know, a stage would have been a good background idea. And instead of just doing it based off of one of my previous works.
Yeah, I actually think that red could have been pretty good. I mean, I know that you were saying that you weren't too satisfied with like the color clash or whatever, but I think that maybe if you did like you know, like a velvet or something, like a darker red. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall.
It's a little bit hard because like, because I wanted to. There was specific things I wanted to highlight. First was the circle flowing dress part.
Yeah.
And then I guess her pose as well. And I was thinking that if it's too red, basically where the white part is in the background, like that was fully red. And I just thought it was too distracting. Your eyes would just train to the background and not down to the bottom where like the flowing dress is or whatever, right? And so I opted to take it out because of that reason.
Yeah.
Now, if you're like, okay, maybe the blue bars at the top, maybe if those were red, okay, then maybe it could have worked.
Maybe.
But you know, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, it's sort of like that though. I mean, sometimes even for me, like when, like let's say for my Argyle and paint, like in our previous ones, I was like, oh, I was like unsatisfied with those as well, and like in the end, I opted to just straight up like redraw the piece, right? Like I did not put out my first iterations into the world, and I wonder if maybe for this piece, like if you were able to somehow realize your initial vision with it, if maybe like you would have been a little bit more satisfied with it or something.
I think the biggest thing here was that like I don't think this piece is bad,
right?
But like when I transitioned to this pose instead, or like this camera angle instead, or this composition instead, like it looks okay, but it didn't fulfill that creative I guess itch or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so like I'm not technically like unsatisfied, but I'm creatively unsatisfied, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously besides some like, not to say errors in the background, like, but like the background could have been better or whatever, but like Ruby herself, technically I don't think I have really much issues with, but it just didn't fulfill that initial like inspiration or composition that I wanted to do. Right?
I think also because you were like excited about this prompt too. Yeah. So I could definitely see that.
Because like most of the other things that I draw, which are, you know, a little bit more, not to say dynamic or whatever, like I have very strong ideas of what I want to do. So I'm talking about things like my snowboarding prompt that I wanted Ash to be upside down, or I'm talking about like my ice fishing from earlier in the video, right, where I wanted Layla to be like jumping off her seat or whatever with the fish or whatever. So this one, like I said, I had a strong image in mind, but I couldn't do it in the end, and it didn't super translate. Like that idea didn't translate as like that image in your mind is still so strong that when you draw this one, you don't feel like it's quite hitting the same sort of vision. There's still things I like about this piece, but it still doesn't hit the same, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because especially for me, like I said, like I actually really like Ruby and her pose, and I think the dress is really pretty. Like it flows really well, and I think it brings a lot of like dynamic movement to the piece, despite like it seems like Ruby is like just finishing her movement and the dress is kind of moving along with her.
I mean,
like
that's what I wanted, right?
She's doing like a final pose like at the end of a performance, which I think looks really good, right? But I mean, I do completely understand where, like, you know, if this was not like the vision you truly had in mind, like even though like technically I think it looks good, like you still might not be like we said totally satisfied. But I think kind of asking yourself, like, you know, why it makes you so unsatisfied is really important, because, you know, like, ultimately, like I was saying before, like, sometimes your first idea is not your best idea, or even like when you think like, oh, maybe I should pivot ideas, maybe it's not actually as strong of a vision that, you know, you had initially, right? And I think like that sort of passion that you have for the prompt, even maybe you don't feel like it fulfills it in certain ways.
Yeah.
So then, you know, when you ask yourself like, okay, well, you know, why am I unsatisfied with this? Like, you get this nagging feeling, right?
Because like I think like you mentioned like some of your previous prompts, like you ended up making a second version, right? Because you weren't satisfied. And in my case, I think it's like my quote unquote second version, even though it sort of still is my first version.
Yeah.
Like didn't live up to my first initial thoughts, right?
Or like the hopes that you wanted
that
to
I
achieve.
had to it. So, yeah.
I mean, I think in your case, like if you like did it again, like maybe trying to realize your initial vision that you were very passionate about, I think might be like a way that you could feel more satisfied with it. But
I mean, I definitely would like to possibly try this one again. I don't really know if we want to, I guess, like duplicate prompts in any way, but dancing is broad enough that possibly we could. But maybe, I don't know, like I was thinking if we were to do dancing and a dancing equivalent prompt, like it would be more like of a specific dance, like say break dancing or something, rather than revisiting like something like this again. But I guess it's something we can think about.
I think like, you know, as artists, like the only way we can grow is to kind of like, you know, in a sense ask ourselves the hard questions about like, you know, are we satisfied with our work, and sometimes seeing your work with a critical eye. Because I mean, like obviously sometimes like, or a lot of times, you know, these works are my babies or whatever, right?
I honestly, I've always been the type of person that, unfortunately, I have never been too attached to my work, regardless of what work it is. Not that like I dislike my work or I'm not proud of it, but I'm very much I'm very invested in the moment.
Right.
But then once I'm done, I detach very quickly to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think like that in itself is the whole learning process too, right? About like kind of like, you know, seeing what you're passionate about drawing or creating in the moment, and like trying to fulfill that sort of vision is the best way for an artist to grow. And I think like, you know, even though you weren't satisfied with it fully this time, right, I think it's still a great like learning experience for yourself.
I mean,
right?
The thing is about criticism that, you know, I think sometimes artists, or not artists in general, but creatives in general, sometimes don't, not to say realize, is that it's not about you,
right?
It's about the art, right? Or the thing that you made. And it's not even necessarily that your art is bad or the thing that you made is bad, but it's just not to say a pointer or whatever, but just things that you could possibly think about or improve. And sometimes I think, especially if you're particularly sensitive or maybe, not to say defensive, but like, or like, you know, as you said, like, you know, these are my babies or whatever, right? Like it's not about you. And like, not to say like to like chill out or whatever, but like like sometimes like feedback is good, but sometimes obviously there's bad feedback too, right? But like, so being able to parse between it, but like I think being able to see your own art or the things that you do a bit more critically will help you grow. And even though I'm not satisfied with some of the things that I drew for this piece, there are still things that I like about it, which that I can bring to my next pieces. Like, because for example, I really like the way that I, you know, colored the dress, or like the floor movements.
I think it looks great.
Or even the bodice part, right? I really like to draw Ruby's like raised hand. That was probably my favorite part, drawing this whole piece. Like, it's very a small part of the piece that's not even like the main focus that I want to do, but I really enjoyed it, right? And these are things that I can bring to my next piece, even if I'm not fully satisfied with this one.
Yeah, and I mean, even though, like you said, like, even though this wasn't quite, you know, exactly the way that you wanted to draw it, I think you still managed to make it very, like, expressive in the way that you did it. And even though you know, it wasn't 100% what you wanted to do, I still think that you know, tried to do your best with, you know, the way that you opted to kind of transition the piece into a new composition.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it for this week's weekly wrap-up from the both of us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. If you'd like to see more, maybe you'd be interested in last week's video too. See you there!